Hello, my name is Helen Lyne. I'd like to acknowledge the Gadigal people, traditional owners of the land on which I live, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and future. I'm going to give you some tips on presenting a poem to a live audience. If I was at an open mic in a pub now, I wouldn't introduce myself or say what I intended to do. I'd leave it to the MC to say, I'm a brilliant performance poet, and Disney and 20th Century Fox are in a bidding war for a story from my recently published collection called Love, Disappointment and Other Joys of Life. I wrote that out for the MC to read. The audience would want me to get on with the poem. When a dear friend who has touching confidence in my abilities suggested I give a talk about how to front up to a microphone at an open mic venue, I did what any poet would do. I panicked and I wrote a poem. In front of an audience, I do all the things you're not supposed to do. I was a teacher for 40 years, so I'll tell you what I used to tell my students. Do what I say, not what I do. For instance, when I'm in a pub, like the Friend in Hand Hotel in Glebe, I read my poems from a sheet of paper. The best performance poets, those who win slams, they learn their poems off by heart. I don't enter slams. At the age of 75, it's a huge effort to memorize a poem. And besides, I write about things that might not exist for much longer, like mask wearing and the little penguins of Manly. I've seen wonderful poets suddenly forget their lines. When that happens, the audience is sympathetic. They don't like to see cringing embarrassment. You've got to love a pub poetry audience. The worst thing they do to you is look at their phones. Some poets read from their phones. That's better than paper because your face isn't obscured. But I'm scared of squinting or pressing the wrong key and making the whole thing disappear. Everything's scary. You've got no props, no PowerPoint, no visuals. People are moving about. Have you ever known a barman to shake ice in a silent margarita? A pub audience is the same as a classroom full of adolescents. They've seen it all, done it all, and know more than you do. Some are ready to listen, some aren't. What do? You eyeball the most troublesome kid in the class or the most bored-looking punter at the bar. Your opening statement is definitely not, that's a hard act to follow. So what if the previous poet was fabulous? You are too. In your shaking hand, you're holding a great story or something beautiful, or maybe a poignant drama with a dash of humour. That worked for Shakespeare. I always thank the MC. He or she has provided the opportunity for me to read my stuff. They've said how wonderful I am, told everyone to shut up, and made sure the microphone is not just the right height, it's actually on. How do I get over being scared? I don't. What I really like is terror before I start. It's a shot of adrenaline. It means that by the time I get to the microphone, hopefully without falling over someone's feet, I'm ready to read. On the other hand, if fear suddenly hits or escalates at the microphone, I have to lurch on regardless. Some people take deep breaths. That works for them. I look at the friends whom I've planted strategically in the middle of the room. I don't invite the friends who'll give me helpful suggestions afterwards. I invite those who'll give me the thumbs up, no matter how obfuscating and unintelligible I am. Some poets don't like making eye contact. In that case, you can look at hairlines, or it's better to glance at a spot on the wall at eye level than to keep your eyes glued on your poem. I once lived in the Champagne area of France, so I like a glass of the best, but I avoid any form of French or Dutch courage before a performance. It puts my timing out and dulls my awareness of audience reaction. I drink or drown afterwards. I've seen wonderful poets kill their own poems at a mic. They're shy or scared. I think every performer is scared in some way, and that's it. A poem or a speech or a talk is a performance. A poem might be about something terrible, like the destruction of the Twin Towers or the evacuations from Kabul. But any poem, no matter what it's about, has a rhythm, a feeling, a careful choice of words, and when listening to it, an audience wants to be moved. Monotone, mumbling, speed reading kill the feeling that a poet is aiming for. Hold up your piece of paper or your phone or your cue card, and every now and again look at your audience. If someone laughs, you bless their beautiful soul and keep glancing at them. Make the connection. The people around them will also respond. If someone looks sad or outraged or horrified, and that's what you're aiming for, glance at them. They'll give you courage. One way to preempt fear is to suss out the audience. Don't decide on one poem and stick to it no matter what. Bring a fistful. If it looks like the kind of audience that hates penguins, choose a poem you've written about something lovable. I do political satire. At an RSL in southwest Brisbane, I might suddenly decide that the rhyme I have for Anastasia is not up to my usual standard of sophistication. Bookshop audiences are often full of young feminists. I'm an old feminist. We don't always agree. It can be safer to present a poem about performing. This one is called Panic Poem for a Performer. If you want to wow an audience, you'll look them in the eye, and the first thing that you utter shows absolutely why they have to stop their chatter and ignore their foamy beer, because you've grabbed them by the curlies and they simply have to hear the drama and the pathos that make them gasp and moan and ignore the hot vibrations in their pocket from their phone. So what? Your heart is thumping and you feel the urge to pee. Just use your voice with passion, or else seductively. And once you've wrung their hearts out, take a lesson from the bard and throw in more emotion until they find it hard to stop themselves from crying for that Sheila and her bloke, and when you have them on their knees, you hit them with a joke. There's one thing that's important if you want to sound all right. Make contact with the punters and they're sure to love your shite. Thank you all for listening, and I thank the very nice Rita who's recording me, and my excellent advice.